Chapter 19. The Magog. The Magog finds another survivor, pulling him from the water by an arm and flinging him high into the sky. Laughing, the creature releases a pulse of energy from its mouth that vaporizes the man. There is no thought or reason within the Magog. As a creature animated only by evil, it is but a single drive, destruction. The Magog derives pleasure from death and suffering. The power that fuels the creature is slowly depleted by use, but is able to absorb negative energy generated by emotions such as hatred, misery, and pain to replenish its stores. A small group of Dwarka soldiers survive on a military boat, having narrowly escaped the devastating waves and electrical explosions. The men raise their bows and let loose a barrage of arrows upon the monster, responsible for destroying their city. The arrows pierce the Magog, but it seems to cause little more than minor irritation. Puffing out its mass, the Magog sends the arrows speeding back towards the soldiers. Two men collapse, arrows through their throats. Another soldier hurls his pike, but the Magog catches the weapon and gives it back to him through the chest. With another pulse of energy, the Magog eliminates the boat and all its occupants. Enkidu looks out across the water, helpless. Even if he could have reached the men in time, he doubts that he'd even be able to make a difference. He remembers the tremendous dark aura and spiritual pressure that first was exerted by the creature, and still feels the pain in his chest from where it pierced him with a single finger. The Magog was so fast that Enkidu never even saw it move. "There are horses running about wildly on the next ridge," Haida says, having scouted out their hill while Enkidu continued to watch the Magog's murderous hunt. "If we can calm them, we can ride away from here and flee that monster for at least a little while." "We cannot just run. Sooner or later, I will have to fight this beast," Enkidu says solemnly. "What? No, you cannot. You are strong, but there is no way that you can defeat a monster that can destroy an entire city." He turns to look up at her. "If I do not, who will? Do you know of anyone stronger than I?" He sighs, saddened that he knows he will soon die. "It is my duty to protect this world." He is stopped in his self-pity by the telepathic voice of his former Yazata teacher. "Enkidu, can you hear me?" The voice cuts directly into his ears. His message is loud, as if shouted across the long distance, over a crowd. "Yes, Master, I am here." Enkidu continues to stare out across the water to where the city of Dwarka stood less than an hour earlier. What was that creature? All of Dwarka has been swallowed by the sea. I had prayed that this day would never come, yet it has happened so much sooner than I could ever have feared. Master, please tell me what this thing is. What do you know? What was wakened is called the Magog. It is a ferocious beast that acts on instinct alone. Created at the dawn of humanity, the Magog is a creature that is tied directly to the hearts of men. Tied to our hearts? Enkidu becomes agitated by the Yazata's cryptic messages and his avoiding of the questions asked. What do you mean by that? When the Creator made humans, he granted them free will. His previous creations in Anshar were obedient, not because they chose so, but because he made them so. He longed for a being that could choose right from wrong, with the intention that mankind would choose to love and obey him, and produce a relationship greater than what he shared with his other creations. Doyle pauses, and Enkidu hears sadness in his voice. That was not the case. From even its earliest days, mankind committed unspeakable acts upon each other. It took over 300,000 years before the first Yazata took up a weapon against his brothers and killed. Yet it was only 14 years before humanity's first murder. Because of mankind's constant sinning, the Creator fashioned a container that was to collect their evil whenever an offering was made to purify them. Because sin cannot be permitted to enter the Anshar realm, and because the Creator pardons evil deeds when his followers are truly repentant, the sin had to have some place to go. Nothing can be destroyed, only change form or dimension. Sin does not vanish when it is pardoned. It is drawn into that container to prevent its spreading. Sin is a cancerous substance that sticks to any surface it touches, and is impossible to fully erase. How is it that this container has risen up to destroy Dwarka? That thing was no mere jar or box, it was alive. The Magog absorbs all of mankind's negativity and hatred. The sin animated not into a creature, but into a force of pure destruction. The crimes of humanity were so great that they quickly filled the container in only a few short millennia. The Magog lashed out with all of the evil it had absorbed, and the Potestas were deployed. Doyle's pauses, recalling the mass devastation unleashed upon the earth. The entire planet was nearly destroyed before the Magog was weakened enough to be subdued. Humanity numbered in the millions in those days, as they do now. But after the Magog and Potestas were finished, less than a few thousand individuals remained. Humans risked extinction from a genetic lack of diversity, and were spread out across the world to prevent the likelihood of another catastrophic event or disease, finishing what the Magog or destroyers could not. You said subdued. Can the Magog not be destroyed? Upon the Magog's death, the creature's essence is returned to the earth, emptied of mankind's sin, and the cycle begins anew. The sin that the creature had collected becomes the energy that fuels the creature and gives it its power. The Magog has become one of the world's fundamental forces of nature. Without it, mankind could never attain paradise. The sins of Dwarka's celebrations caused the Magog to overflow and animate. Enkidu whispers, "How many years ago was it last released?" 4,000 years ago, the Magog absorbed the evil of your world, and nearly caused its destruction. All but a few of the humans living in the remote areas and high altitudes were killed. The rise in the sea levels and the massive tides wiped out all of the coastal centers and largest concentrations of populace. It is deeply troubling that a slightly smaller population of humans has unleashed the Magog in a shorter amount of time. I witnessed the debauchery of Dwarka firsthand. That city produced 1,000 years' worth of sin in a single night. I am not surprised that the container burst. Now that it is free, the Magog will not stop until all life is extinguished. It does not eat, sleep, drink, or tire. The Magog does not even require air to breathe. Enkidu ponders the previous actions taken against the Magog before responding. Will the Potestas be deployed straight away, or will we have time to attempt stopping the creature ourselves? The Magog has an innate hatred of all life. There is no chance that any man could ever stand against it. It will take the Potestas to put the creature down, but at a great cost to your world. That is why I must know how much time I have before the Potestas destroy everything that the Magog has not. It is madness to think that you could ever do what an entire choir of trained Yazata Seraphim would be unable. I too have Yazata blood, and share with them a portion of that grand power. It is my duty to stop the Magog before it can erase my people from existence. The Magog has no traditional weaknesses. If you cut it, the wound will heal. If you burn it, the body will reform from the ash. You said that the Magog burns the sin, composing it as fuel. If I can push it to use up all of its energy, it will be as a campfire with no kindling. The amount of energy is not something that you can match. The power that a potestas has is the same that which fuels a sun. If I face the Magog and fail, I die, Enkidu says, anger rising in his voice. If I do nothing, the Magog may kill me anyways, and if it does not, the potestas surely will. Would you truly ask me to leave such circumstance to chance? A small chance still exists for humanity's survival if the potestas successfully defeat the Magog. If the time that could be spent deploying the potestas were instead used by you and ends in failure, the potestas would have a much smaller window of saving any humans whatsoever. Then make sure that I am ready. If it would take the power of the sun itself, or 5 to stop the Magog, make me as strong as 6. I cannot just will you to become stronger. You have told me so many times before about my heritage as a descendant of the Yazata, that being a hybrid gives me some kind of inner power, beyond that which I could ever achieve as a human alone. Bring out that power from within me. Unlock my potential, so that I may use that strength to stop the Magog and save my people. I must discuss this matter with the Sarum, and gain their input. I cannot tread this decision lightly with so many lives at stake. In the distance beyond them, the Magog encounters a regiment of warriors on horseback as the men come down a steep mountain trail. The water has climbed up the base of the mountain, and the men left their camp at the peak as soon as they felt the tremors and saw the changes in the sky. The horses catch scent of the Magog and go into a frenzy, bucking the warriors to the ground and fleeing in any direction they can. Several horses are swept out with the currents and disappear. The men recover quickly, drawing their swords and organizing to make the best use of their limited space. The Magog senses their murderous intent and grins, feeling empowered by their hatred. They're going to be slaughtered, Enkidu growls, balling his fists, and all I can do is sit here and watch. As expected, the battle is brief. The human swords cannot harm the Magog, and the slightest retaliation by the creature is too much for their bodies to handle. A singular punch to one of the men causes his entire body to explode into a shower of red meat. With each kill, the Magog is strengthened by the sin of its victim. Any impure thought or actions that go unforgiven are absorbed by the monster, and further fuel its destructive capacity. The more the Magog kills, the stronger it becomes, Doyle says, understanding Enkidu's frustration. All sin and negative emotions give power to the beast. Does it have no limit? Enkidu asks, praying to learn some kind of weakness. Can its power truly go on forever if not stopped? If all life ceased, the Magog would eventually deplete its power. So long as humans exist to kill, the Magog has the means to strengthen itself. Enkidu curses, infuriated by the irony. Man's sin creates the Magog and gives it power, but to stop the beast and save humanity, man would have to disappear. Is there no secret Yazatan magic to block such an ability? Some way to cut the Magog off from growing stronger? The Creator designed the Magog and its power to be outside the limitations of magic. Yazatan abilities are ineffective against the beast by this plan. That is why you rely on the potestas to defeat the creature. They are not Yazata and do not fall under its limitation. Enkidu says, but there must be some other way. You and Haida must travel far from the Magog and stay alive. I will confer with the Sarum and try to gain permission to train you to combat the beast. Haida looks over at Enkidu, who lies against a tree, holding his side. The man is barely conscious, and his wound stinks with infection. Smearing a fresh layer of mud over Enkidu's side, Haida hopes to stop the bleeding. Slowly standing, Enkidu begins to walk away from the Dwarka sea, but stumbles, clutching his chest in pain. Haida runs over and slings his shoulder around her neck. Allow me to help you this time, she says, smiling. Both their faces are dirty and stained with blood. If Master Hoyles comes through for us, I want you to stay on his world when I return to fight, Enkidu says. What? No, I cannot abandon you. Ida stares into his eyes, hurt. Not after all we've been through. Enkidu turns, taking her shoulder into his arms. His grip is tight, but not painful, and Haida feels like a child in his presence. It is because of what we have been through and the time we have spent together that I desire to keep you safe. If you return here, the Magog will kill you. And would my grief be any less should I be put away while you were killed? Live or die, I only want to stay by your side. Enkidu smiles, touched by her concern. I cannot wait for Master Hoyles to beg the Yazata for permission to act. Every second we waste, that creature is murdering our people. I must do what I can. If I can stall the beast long enough, perhaps some may escape. Walking away from Haida, Enkidu shouts to draw the attention of the Magog. Hey! Over here! You have not killed me yet, monster! The Magog twists its head around to look at the man without turning the rest of its body. Growling with irritation, the Magog descends to finish what it began earlier. Making the first move, Enkidu throws a left hook, but the punch does nothing, but causes his own hand pain. The Magog looks at him with annoyance, merely flicking him away with a finger. The force of just a single touch is enormous, and Enkidu can do nothing to slow himself as he is propelled backward. The sea is parted behind Enkidu until he finally comes to a stop and sinks beneath the surf. Coughing, Enkidu surfaces, but the Magog is already hovering overhead. The beast places a foot on the man's head, forcing him back underwater. Enkidu claws at the Magog's leg, tearing chunks of flesh off, but it does not affect the creature in any way. The Magog does not seem to feel any pain, but its leg soon becomes thin enough to be broken through, and Enkidu snaps the appendage in two and swims away to safety. The Magog's leg reforms as Enkidu gasps for air. With the water so high, there is no way for him to fight against a creature with the ability to hover overhead, and he swims towards the tallest rooftop that has not yet been submerged. The building was once a tall monument to the god Nisaba, but with all of his worshippers drowned, and his temples flooded, Nisaba will be forgotten to time like so many others. Enkidu focuses his energy, hoping to get a better shot at his foe from dry ground. As the Magog approaches, Enkidu lines the beast up between his hands as he throws them outward. Brahmastra! Enkidu shouts, firing a blast of blue energy that acts as a karmic weapon and deals damage equal to the target's evil plus however much of a multiplier Enkidu has the stamina to add on to. The blast hits the Magog with an even level because his stamina is so low. Even so, the attack is the first to deal any damage to the creature that it even seems to notice. For the first time, the Magog howls in a tone that appears to be pained. The Magog's left arm and part of its torso are dissolved, and the beast is not immediately able to repair the damage. Enkidu collapses, his wounds and exhaustion getting the best of him. If only he had been able to perform this technique earlier on, he may have been able to defeat the Magog. Now that the creature has seen this ability and felt the pain that it can cause, it will become more cautious, and attempt to avoid any similar attacks in the future at all costs. Finally healed, the Magog kicks Enkidu in the ribs and knocks him into the water. The man lacks the strength to fight back, and barely manages to cling to the side of a roof with one arm. Pulling himself back up, Enkidu drops to a knee and struggles to remain conscious. The Magog growls, tired of the man's continued nuisance, as the beast nears Enkidu to finish him off. The man rises up with his sword and rakes the metal across the Magog's throat. Reactive instinctively, the Magog backhands Enkidu into the water and stumbles backward. The Magog's neck seals shut and it hisses in frustration, reaching down into the water and grabbing Enkidu by a leg. Barely conscious, Enkidu twists, driving his sword straight up through the creature's forehead. Magog tries to move, awkwardly held in place by the sword. How is this demon still alive? Enkidu wonders. No being should be able to survive a sword through the head. Unable to pull free, the Magog's shoulder instead begins to grow a new head, as the old one deflates like a pierced balloon. Horrified, Enkidu can do nothing as the Magog drives a fist into his gut and sends him careening back into the water. No amount of cutting, stabbing, or dismembering will ever stop the Magog. As Enkidu sinks into the blackened depths, he wonders if the creature truly is invincible. Enkidu realizes too late that he no longer has hold of Tiavan, losing his blade to the sea. Not willing to allow his prey to drown, the Magog pulls Enkidu up from the water with torture on its mind. The man pivots in its grip, managing to cut through the Magog's wrist with a powerful knife-hand chop and sever the appendage. Enkidu swims to the nearest shore at the base of what was once a mountain peak. He staggers up the hill, only mud and willpower keeping his lifeblood from spilling out. If he does not receive healing immediately, he will die. The Magog stares at the man with a mixture of vague interest and slight annoyance. He is no threat, yet he continues to challenge the Magog and be a bother. Enkidu is now without a sword, and barely able to stand. Still he faces the Magog without fear. I do not know what I can do, if anything, to stop you, but I must try, Enkidu says. You cannot be allowed to kill any more people. The Magog tilts its head like an animal, attempting to understand human speech. The creature has no language of its own and can only grunt, growl, or scream. Enkidu holds his hands out, trying to concentrate his aura into a weapon. The Magog senses the air shifting and is aware of the energy coalescing together. This angers the Magog, and it transforms both arms into sharpened blades. Enkidu's stamina is too low to gather much energy, and he is forced to draw upon his life force to gain the strength necessary to manifest and condense a sword of shining blue light. He launches himself down the bank to strike, but the Magog blocks with one bladed hand and drives the other through Enkidu's chest. The energy sword instantly evaporates, and Enkidu falls slack upon the Magog's arm. The Magog pulls its arm free, and Enkidu falls to his knees, eyes staring forward in shock. Blood oozes from the fresh wound, and the man's complexion grows ghostly white. A bright light flashes from the sky, erupting against the Magog and obliterating most of its upper body. The remains of the Magog fall into the water with several small splashes. Doyle kneels before Enkidu, quickly healing his most fatal injuries with Dukan Hela's magic. Enkidu sits up, restored. Doyle, what are you doing here? Saving you from death. Did you really think that you could defeat the Magog alone? What other choice did I have? That monster has slaughtered everyone it has come across. That is what it was designed for. The Magog will never tire, and it will continue to destroy until there is nothing left. Humans made this choice through their evil actions. This is the inevitable outcome of worshipping vile creatures like Nyarlathotep and Molech. I saw the evil of man firsthand, from my island. They were willing to do the most unspeakable acts to each other just to survive. You put those people in unwinnable situations. How are the murders that you committed any better? They're not, Doyle says flatly. Yet my actions can never be forgiven. No matter what I do to atone, my deeds will carry with me forever. I can neither go to Ansha or Tartarus. When I meet my end, only oblivion awaits me. So that is it? Enkidu asks, despair mounting. This is the end of this world? Doyle slowly nods. I am afraid so. No one can stop the Magog. Anshar Realm, World of Holoven. Hoyos leaves Adonai to continue his sword training and goes into the temple-like building that serves as his home. Built in the fashion of other Yazdan architecture, the temple is crystalline with golden rim and foundation. Minutes later, he returns outside carrying a wooden box made of acacia wood, measuring 2 cubits by 5 cubits. The box is old, and it is obvious that it has not been used in many years. "What is that?" Adonai asks, pausing to look at the box. Hoyles opens up the box, withdrawing a large ram's horn trimmed with gold and decorated with rows of Yazatan glyphs. "This horn will summon an available Seraphim officer in times of emergency. We are able to connect telepathically with individual humans, but a message sent out to our brethren would be heard by all, and I do not wish to create chaos amongst the other choirs." Blowing the horn, Hoyles waits only a few seconds before a radiant figure appears beside him through the teleportation of Yazatan Shunkonido. Dressed in full golden armor, the warrior bears the symbol of 2 crossed swords, indicating he is a member of the 7th choir. "Ashmalim Hoyles." Captain Zedkiel nods in respect to the Watcher. "What is so wrong that you would have need of assistance?" "The Magog has once again been unleashed upon Kishar and all of humanity." Zedkiel sighs with exasperation, rubbing his eyebrows. "Again? Already? Has it not been only a few millennia since the beast awoke and mankind was reduced back to their proper station?" "It was," Hoyles replies sadly. "The humans had all banded together to create a god for themselves selected from amongst their leaders. Their god bathed in the blood of the innocent and stirred the Creator to awaken the Magog early, to punish them for their iniquity." "Did the Creator again step in to punish the humans?" Hoyle shakes his head. "I do not believe that it was necessary. The evil in the human city of Dwarka was greater than anywhere I had ever seen before. The Magog grew fat on their sin and could no longer rest. Many Fravashis returned to report the sudden deaths of their pledges, but details were scarce. Natural disasters and panic killed thousands. The remaining Fravashis in the human world were instructed to investigate the source." "They must be called back," Hoyle shouts. "The Magog will make no distinction between human and Yazata. Those guardians will be slaughtered before they are even aware of what they are up against." "Thank you for your prompt warning. Your skill as a watcher is most esteemed." "I did not summon you only for warning. I ask you to not request the deployment of the Potestas until after my human pupil has attempted to defeat the Magog himself." "Defeat the Magog?" Zedkiel laughs. "Him?" He points to Adonai, who has been silently taking in the conversation. "Young Adonai is not ready for combat. No. I speak of Enkidu Chapter of Katal-Takuk. He was present for the Magog's revival and desires a chance to protect his world and people. Do you think so highly of yourself and your skill that you would be able to produce a human capable of what no Yazata has done before? A human could train for 1,000 years and still be no match for the Magog. What harm would come in allowing him a small chance at victory? Delaying the Potestas would be catastrophic. What if the Magog runs out of mortals to kill before the Potestas arrive? What if it learns how to reach another world? You cannot put all of creation at risk on a whim." Hoyles becomes irritated in the Yazda's lack of respect for humanity and all their positive qualities. "This is not a whim. As a warrior, would you not desire a chance to defeat an enemy before others are sent to do the task?" Zedkiel smiles, knowing exactly what the crafty Hoyles is playing at. "Do you truly intend to poke at my pride as a member of the 7th choir? The 7th choir is renowned as the most elite fighting force in all of the Anshar realm. If anyone could defeat the Magog other than the Potestas, it would be them. While that is true, I can see that you are merely baiting me. Should the 7th choir mobilize against the Magog, your hope is that we would stall the creature long enough for you to give your human more training. My hope is that the Magog is defeated by anyone other than the Potestas. The destroyers make no distinction between friend and foe. All will be destroyed. I shall propose your plans to General Uriel. but I cannot guarantee his answer will be satisfactory toward your cause. Doyle nods. Only a general may alter procedure for battle without consent of the Creator. I would never ask that you break the chain of command. You are a cunning individual, Zedkiel says, eyeing him. It is difficult to determine whether I have made a choice at all, rather than events transpiring exactly as you have plotted. Using Shunkonido, Captain Zedkiel of the Seventh Choir is gone. Master, is this Enkidu man truly as strong as the Seraphim warriors? Adonai asks. He is unequaled among humanity. But how can that ever compare to the Magog, I do not know. Did he receive the same training as I am undergoing now? Hoyles laughs. Young one, you have many years to toil before you can ever begin to attempt the lessons I taught to Enkidu. Anshar Rome, Mansion of Mahil, World of the Seventh Choir. As home of the militaristic Seventh Choir, the Mansion of Mahil is more of a barracks than a series of traditional dwellings. The soldiers of General Uriel are always at the ready, constantly training for the next battle. Of all the choirs of the Yazata, the seventh is the most fiercely dedicated of warriors. They live for battle, and their swords sing the praises of God rather than their lips. Each member of the seventh choir is strong enough to be an officer in any of the other choirs, but they remain loyal to Uriel, and wish only to serve under him. Captain Zedkiel appears in a flash of light, immediately greeted by a score of his peers. What did the Hashmelem require of you? A Yazata named Jophiel asks. Zedkiel is hesitant to speak, drawing the attention of Lieutenant Taniel and his subordinate Horiel. Where's General Uriel? Zedkiel asks. Jophiel asked you a question, Zodkiel, Taniel says, his voice cold and emotionless. The Watcher of Kishar has observed the premature awakening of the Magog, Zedkiel says. Horiel coughs, barely able to catch his breath from the shock. The Magog? Taniel balls his fists in anger. The thought of all of the earth's beauty becoming soured by humanity's sin is infuriating. A pristine world will turn into a stagnant swamp due to mankind. Debauchery, murder, rape, thieves, he growls. There is no evil that man will not commit. A majority of the evil originated from a single city called Twarka, Zedkiel says. Should not this city be punished rather than all of humanity? Horiel asks. Just because they did not commit these evils this time does not mean that they would not in time go on to act in a similar manner themselves. About time these monkeys were wiped from existence, Taniel says. The lieutenant's disdain for mankind is very clear. The Magog hates all life, not just humans, Zedkiel says. All plant and animal populations will also be exterminated. That is unfortunate, Taniel groans. I rather liked the flora and fauna of that world. It is too early to simply write the entire world off. If we stop the Magog, much of the mortal life would be preserved. The humans deserve what they are getting. If the cost for that punishment is the loss of lower life forms, so be it. Are we not going to respond to this crisis? Horiel asks. I did respond, Taniel says. My response was that the humans can deal with their own problems. Zedkiel holds out an arm, revealing the symbol for the seventh choir glowing brightly red upon the back of his hand. Hoyles of Section 616 has formally petitioned our aid. We must make a show of force. Taniel turns his own hand over, cursing in annoyance at the sight of the glowing beacon of two crossed swords. That means that General Uriel is also aware of the situation. There's no way to ignore the petition without making the seventh choir look like cowards. That damn Watcher has forced our hand. General Uriel is unreachable, Horiel says. Even if he has been alerted, he will be unable to return here to help us. Zedkiel's eyes widen with surprise. Where has General Uriel gone? Poe's expected me to relay this information to him directly. The general has gone to aid a counterpart with an issue in his own reality. Our ability to communicate does not travel across dimensional boundaries. We cannot even reach the general via Shunkanito, Taniel explains. While Uriel is gone, all decisions must go through me. Will you act in favor of helping the Watcher with the problem of the Magog? Zedkiel asks. Taniel swiftly gives him a glaring look. With the general abroad, we must dispatch the Potestas and inform the Seren princes. I cannot authorize putting our forces in jeopardy for the sake of any mortals, Taniel says. Zedkiel shifts nervously. What else? Taniel growls, sensing the captain is holding something back from him. He has requested that we attempt to defeat the Magog without the use of the Potestas. Taniel is unsure of how to respond. His faith in our abilities is unlikely his motivation. Why then does Hoyle seek to stall their deployment? One of his human students intends to confront the beast himself, but he is not yet ready. Taniel begins to laugh, but draws his sword and quickly brings it against Zedkiel's throat. The Hashmalim oversteps his boundaries. Not only does he mock the Almighty by teaching our ways to the humans, now he seeks to make us sacrifices for his precious mortals. A battle would do our troops good, Hoyle says. Many have not seen action since the Second War of Falling. Taniel nods and sheathes his sword. The lieutenant's eerie grin paralyzes Zedkiel with terror. We will destroy the Magog, but if any of Hoyle's precious mortals are caught in the crossfire, we will not relent. Tell everyone to arm up. We go to Kishar immediately.